Hello and welcome to Nanapod, a podcast dedicated to the fantastic manga written by A. Yazawa. I'm Crystal, and I'm joined by my best girl Kirsten as we dissect this manga, discussing everything from the emotions, the cultural impact, as well as any headcanons that might be floating around in our brains. With this podcast, we hope to preserve a shoujo staple that sadly hasn't been talked about in a very long time. So come with us. We're waiting for you in apartment 707. Hi guys. Welcome to Nanapod. Okay, so what you're going to hear for this episode is going to be very different than what you have been hearing for like the past year or so. So my collaborator partner had to go back to school, and she is taking a full course load. And that means that she doesn't necessarily have time to dedicate to this project anymore. So because of that, I'm sort of at this weird juxtaposition where I don't really know how to proceed with this particular podcast, but at the same time, I don't want to leave it to die, you know, because it was something that we started and I would like to finish it, even if I have to finish it alone. So, that being said, we're going to just continue on with doing what we were doing, and I will be making sole commentary until the foreseeable time that something changes or she comes back to the project. So anyway, we're still on volume 14, and we are on chapter 51 here. So it starts out with a cityscape, and there is a picture of Trap Nest, you know, on a billboard. It's Rira, for the release of their new album. And it says, Takumi said he tried to come home every night, but there were a lot of times he didn't come home because of work. Most of the time it probably really was work, but sometimes my instincts told me otherwise. I don't care if Takumi has 100 women. As long as I'm number one, that's all right. I'll keep on being number one, no matter what. And before I get much farther, another thing that is going to be different is we don't have the other translation to sort of compare to the Viz Media one, which is the one that I'm reading. So I'm so sorry, guys. It's going to be very different. But anyway. So now there's a city street, people are talking, blah, 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 and there is somebody who is in disguise wearing glasses, a scarf, and then like this big hat to hide the hair. And they are looking across the street at the poster. And there's this room sound in the back room. And then somebody says, "Hey, it's Rira." And then this person flinches, and when they turn, we can kind of see their eyes, and it's clearly Rira hiding under this hat and scarf and glasses. And it's these two high school girls, and the first one is like, "Oh, she's so beautiful. I want that sign." And the second one says, "But don't you think Rira seems really fake when you see her on TV? It's annoying. I don't like the 'aren't I the best singer in the world' way she sings." And the other girl's like, she probably does think that. And the other girl's like, "I like Nana better. She's cool, but she's a natural." And Rira has turned, and she's got all the sweat drops, and she's thinking, no, she doesn't, you know, about herself. And that girl's saying that she probably thinks that she's the best. And as these girls are walking away, they're like, she's got that do or die quality when she sings, talking about Nana. it stabs you in the heart. And the girl's like, yeah, I can see that. Totally. Heart. I can't wait for their new album, Heart. I'll buy it for sure. And Rira's kind of like looking off to the side, and she's looking really, really sad. Which is, understandable because we never really actually know what celebrities are thinking. I don't necessarily know, you know, uh, how do I want to put this? In the West, we've been seeing a very interesting shift to more authentic ways of being within popular celebrity culture. So I do think that it's really interesting that, right now as I'm reading this chapter, that, people are having this like, oh, they probably think this and they probably think that. And you have a celebrity who is like, no, I don't actually feel that way. But you never know. You know what I mean? You never actually know how celebrities are thinking and feeling, especially because most of our celebrities here in the West have like billionaire status, so they have like billionaire brain rot. So I think the pipeline to thinking things like I'm the best singer in the world happens fairly quickly because of the people that they're surrounded by and the money that they have combined with their personality proclivities and, the substance abuses that happen. So, anyway, Rira is walking away, and there's a think boxes, and they say Blast's single debuted at #1 in the very first week, with a record-breaking number of CDs sold, knocking Trapness down a notch or two. But Takumi seemed totally unfazed and actually content, as if he just finished some big project. Which, if you guys remember, he said this before. He was just like, we're going to struggle for a little while, but, like, we're going to be fine. We're going to come out on top because we're consistent, and Blast is a new band. And basically being like, they're punk music, and punk music doesn't thrive as much as pop music does. I would be very interested to see how Takumi feels in 2026, considering the top 40 again here in the West is a fucking mess. Because most country is on the pop charts right now, leading the way, and we have TikTok that is dictating a lot of people's choices and not the radio. And Spotify is also still this terrible monster that looms large in the public consciousness, which is also helping to dictate, what kind of ebbs and flows. So, but this is 2001, so anyway. And then there's a sing change, and we have the ding dong of a bell, and there's this really beautiful woman, and, oh god, I'm blanking on her name. Sexy Hachi, Nobu's current girlfriend. And it's her, and there's a creak of a door, and the person says, hello, and she looks up. Oh, no, I'm wrong. It isn't her. It's one of the actress, the actress recently that Takumi slept with. My bad. I'm sorry. Anyway, so here's Hachi, and she's watching this, and this woman takes out a knife, and she's wearing gloves, and it goes shing, and Hachi's like, gasp, and then because they're watching TV, this woman's like, you better stay away from my man. I've come to take what's mine. And then there's a bum 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 of the music in the background, and both Hachi and Takumi, who's sitting on the couch reading a newspaper, are just like staring at the TV and like, and the music's like bum bum bum, and then on the TV it says to be continued. And then Hachi's like, that's horrible. And when everything was going so good, why? And it's all that lying, cheating dude's fault. She should probably stab him instead. It's not fair. And now Takumi has kind of gone back into his newspaper because, he's been cheating on Hachi. So Hachi turns to him and is like, but, uh, Sumiki Morishita, age 24, is so beautiful, Heart. I think she's way better than Mami Sakagoichi. She's totally believable. And now he's pulled the paper down and he's just kind of like smiling and he's like, you think? I wasn't paying attention. He totally was. Such a liar. Um, and she's like, have you ever met her? And he's like, I don't know. I don't remember. And she's like, doesn't she remind you of Rira? And he's like, no, why would she? they're they're totally not talking about the same thing here because Hachi is so oblivious as to, that this is someone that he just used to cheat on her with, and probably is like, no, please don't do that comparison. I'm tired of everyone telling me I have to take responsibility for Rira. No. And then Hachi's like, really? I don't mean her looks necessarily, but her body and facial expressions. Oh, wait, look again. And there's a war because she's recorded. She's recording her soaps, so she's like rewinding and all the things. And he's like, hey, why don't you go out and do something instead of sitting here all day watching the soaps you taped? You don't have to stay here because of me. And she's like, no, it's rare for you to be home and relaxed. I'm happy right here. I'm just going to chill here with you, Heart. And he's like, I'm sorry that I can't take you out anywhere. And then she's kind of like, she's laying on his lap now. So she kind of like looks up and then closes her eyes and she's like, but here at home is where I want to be most. I want our house to be a home. And he just kind of looks, very softly. And we have a date here because the newspaper that he's reading is November 10th, 2001. And then he just kind of strokes her hair. And it says, November 10th. That was supposed to be our wedding day. Takumi could have just worked all day if he wanted to, but he stayed at home in Shirogane, and I appreciated his consideration. And now we have a scene change. And it's Rira again, and she's saying, hello, Heart. Serizawa Delivery Service, Heart. And it's Ren on the other side of the door. And he just looks at her and he's smiling. And she's coming in and she's pouring what looks like soup from, a thermos into a bowl. And she says, I tried taking a walk from my place to the train station to relax, but it was loud and crowded, and I got even more depressed, so I took a cab. I have got to get my driver's license. And, Ren is eating and she hands him some chopsticks. And Ren says, want to go out for a drive? We've got nothing better to do. And she just kind of stops and he's like, where do you want to go? And she's like, the sea, Heart. And he just smiles at her very gently. And guys, this is another one of these obnoxious things where y'all seem to think that these two are cheating on each other because they're spending time together. And I need you to fully understand that they are friends. Okay? Like, please, you're killing me here. Jesus Christ. Anyway, there's another scene change and there's a chugga-chugga of a train. And there's a beep. And it's a text message. Sent at 14:03 on the same day from Asami, and it says, how are you? I'm not okay. It's responding. Why didn't I hear from you the whole week? I'm lonely and not eating, and my boobs got small. I'm in shock. And there's like the little like crying with like the tease and the sad face. So that's Nobu's girlfriend. That's sexy Hachi. And there's Nobu, and he's reading the text message, and he just kind of has like this gentle look on his face. And then the conductor is like, Hakata, approaching Hakata Station. And then there's Genpai. And he says, hey Shin, wake up, we're getting off here. And then it's not really a scene change. I think we're having like this a scene going back and forth, but they are at Hotel Tokyo, and there's a ring, and Asami is looking at the job listings weekly, and she jumps up, and she looks at her phone, and Nobu's replied, and he says, "I'm lonely too. I can't take it anymore. I wish I had a portal to anywhere I wanted to go. Then I could go see you right now." And then they're all getting off the train, and there's like a blah blah, and they're moving. And Nobu's like, "How did you know where we were on this train? Coincidence?" It says, there's this girl that he's talking to, and he's like, "You're lying," and she's like, "Just drink this and good luck." I think it might be one of their handlers. And then there's a slide of a door, and one of those groupie girls who's been with the band forever is back, and she says, "Oh, that's who it was. It was her and her other friend who have been with the band for a hot minute have dropped by, and they give him a drink, and it says Mamushi, which is a sexual energy drink." To Nobu. And he's just like, "Good luck with what?" And then Yuri has sent a message. Yuri Asami has sent a message to Shin. It says at 14:06, it says, "The favor for my life." And it says, "Please email me as soon as you find out what hotel you're staying at tonight. Don't tell anyone. Please don't tell anyone." And Shin's just kind of reading the message like, huh? And then there's a plop of a bag over here in Yuri's place. And her phone is ringing. And she kind of looks back, sort of like, "Who's calling?" And she looks to see, and it's Miyu. And then she kind of has like this kind of guilty look on her face. And it's still ringing, and there's a beep as Miyu like puts it down, puts it down, because here's kind of scene change stuff, and because she was trying to call her and she didn't pick up, and then there's a knock. And Miyu's like, "Yeah." And then there's, it's me, and she gets up from the table, and there's a creak of the door, and there's the Greasy Pimp. The Greasy Pimp is here. And she's just like, "I really don't know where Yuri is," because remember last time he had bothered her. And then she looks over, and guys, it's Masato. But, like, Masato is different now. Like, she doesn't have her like big like curly wig. She's wearing like a short bob, and she looks over and she's like, "Who are you?" And she says, Masato says, "It's nice to meet you. I'm Mai Suzuki." Completely different name. And she looks over at the Greasy Pimp, Miyu does, and says, "New talent?" And he's like, "No, a new employee, but she'll be living here too." And Miyu's like, "What?" And she's like, "Why aren't you putting staff in why are you putting staff in dorms for talent?" And he's like, "It's all right. There's a lot of empty rooms. Don't be mean. You're so uptight, like a sister-in-law." And Masato is like, "I'm sorry, I'll leave as soon as I find a place to live." And Miyu just looks over at her with just like this super suspicious look. And Masato's got the sweat drop like, "Oh my god, does she see right through me? Can she see who I am?" And then Miyu looks back at the Greasy Pimp and is like, "Sugimura, is this another runaway you picked up? Give me a break. What are you going to make her do?" And Masato's got all the dots. And he's like, "It's not like that. Now that Blast is so popular, Jin needs some extra help managing. We'll have her do some personal assistance when they get back from tour." Okay, well, that's that. Take good care of her. I don't got time to babysit, but you got a lot of free time, right? And just Miyu was so annoyed, but she's got the dot dot dots. And then Misato's thinking, babysit? And there's a slide of the guy's leaves. And then Miyu's like, how old are you? And Masato's like, I'm 20. Is she? Is she, though? Says, the president told you to say that, didn't he? How old are you really? She asked Masato. And Masato has like the dots, and then she has like this pause of like, oh shit. And then she's like, 17. And Miyu's like, sigh. She's like, hold on a sec. I'll show you around the neighborhood. And she's like, what? No, really, you don't have to do that. And Miyu's like, it's not safe around here. There's certain streets you shouldn't walk down alone. There's shops you probably shouldn't go into. You don't want something bad to happen, do you? And Masato's looking at her like, okay, the dot dots and all that. Like, guys, like, obviously Miyu can't put her finger on it, but she's already clocked her as, like, suspicious. So, Masato, watch your step, girl. she's gonna have you pegged. So now there's another scene change. There's a vroom of a car as Ren is driving, and he's like, wow, there's almost no traffic out here. And Rira's like, so where are we going? All I see are mountains. And he's like, to the end of the earth, heart. And she's got like this wide-eyed look on her face, like, to what? And then there's a room, and now it's the greasy mosquito man. And he's like, really? Ren and Rira? He's talking to his lackey. His lackey's following them. He's like, yeah, I wonder where they're going all by themselves. His lady's on tour. Looks romantic, heart. See, guys, that's the thing. You believe the greasy mosquito people. Like, you fully believe their little propaganda bullshit. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, listen. Anyway, greasy mosquito man is, like, very interesting. Tail them to wherever they go. And then his little lackey has just got this look like, yeah, I'll do that. And then there's this the sound of the rain going down because we have another scene change. And it's Nana, and she's like, God, why does it have to rain everywhere we go? Who's the rain lady? And Shin's like, you're the only lady in our band. And she says, is it me? And oh god, Yasu was like, rain like this every day bums me out, which he did tell Miyu. You know, he was just like, I think he gets the seasonal depressions, the depresso espresso if it rains too much. And Genpai is like, well, tomorrow it'll be snowing in Sapporo, and it's already snow season in Hokkaido, which I'm like, guys, please more snow here. Then Nobu's like, are we really in Kyushu? It doesn't feel like it. Let's do something Kyushu-ish. Whatever that means, Nobu. Oh god, here's Nana. Alright, let's drink them some sauchu. And she's already got like a bottle of wine out of her bag. And he's like, please, not today. My body already totally feels pickled. Okay. So I do have to say that this is an episode that Melissa and I actually did record, but I think the recordings might have gotten lost because I was an idiot and I didn't download them. So something that I know her and I talked about in this is we already know that because they're in their 20s, like, they can drink a lot, but also, like, because of the stress and everything that's going on in her life, Nana's developing a drinking habit. Like, she's fully developing a problem. So yeah, here we are. So now Nana is like, what a wimp. You rich boys all are. And Shin's like, I'll drink with you, Nana. Heart. I mean, of course you will, Shin. And then she's like, Yasu. And he's like, good night. He's not gonna go drink. And she's like, whatever. And then Shin's like, Jin, let's all have a drink together, heart. And he's like, really? How could I say no to you? And then Nobu's looking at his text messages, and it's from Asami at 23:14, and it says, welcome home. And he's looking at it like, what? And says, the door to room 2202 will take you anywhere. I'm waiting. And he's looking at it like, I'm sorry, what? And then Yasu is like, Nobu? And he's like, oh, yeah? And he's like, I need to talk to you. Come in. And they're going into Yasu's room, which looks to be 23:15. And he's like, what? Can we talk tomorrow? You know, because there's a thing. And he just, Yasu's looks at him and he's like, you know the girl who got your second button? And that was the girl that was on the train. Is her name Marina? That's why she's so slippery? What the hell, Yasu? And he's like, no, it's Marika. I'm not sneaking around with groupies like you, which, listen, Nobu, stop. And then, but that's because they saw our beautiful girl with the mole on her cheek go into his room, so he's assuming much. They all assume. And then Yasu just has this look like, what the processing did they, what the hell? And he's like, now I know your sore spot. Look, don't ask, don't tell. Just let me go do my thing. Hard. Asami came all the way here to see me. And Yasu is like, what? I thought Asami was, and Nobu's trying to walk away, and he's like, I'm living for love after all. I'm going to drink the mamushi and get lucky, heart. And Yasu's like, wait, then I can't let you go yet. And then Nobu turns around like, huh? And now they're in Yasu's room, and Yasu has explained everything. And he's like, missing? And he's like, well, I guess now we know where she is. Interesting. And then Nobu's like, why didn't you tell me? And Yasu's like, if I had told you, you would have freaked out and wouldn't have been able to play. But it'd been a week, so I got worried. And Nobu's like, still, I don't understand why Asami didn't tell me anything. She's not the most private or tactful person. And then Yasu's like, oh, as is absorbing information. And now Nobu is sitting down and he's stressed, guys, so frustrated. He's like, God, I really don't get women. Am I that stupid? And then Yasu's like, hey, I don't get it either. I guess every time Yuri talked about wanting to quit her job, her boyfriends ran away. So she probably was afraid you'd do that too. And Nobu looks up kind of like, what? And he's just like, why'd they run away? I don't get those guys either. And Yasu's like, I don't know. Maybe they were after her porn money, or were scared of the wrath of Shikai, something like that. And he's like, what the hell? I don't even want to understand. And Yasu's like, Yuri signed a 2-year porn video contract with Shikai last spring, right when she started getting big. She's still got 6 months left on the contract. She probably signed it because it was big money. But according to Jin, if she quits now, she'll owe them twice that amount as a penalty for breach of contract. And now Nobu's kind of looking like, And he goes on to say, contract money may sound nice, but it's a trap, so she can't run away. And so they can make money at the same time. And because Yuri got a big advance, her pay for each video is small compared to most porn stars. If she wants to quit now, she has to film a lot of videos to make money. Then Sakai will make even more money, because they get a big cut from each video. And Nobu is like, what scumbags. And also, like, Nobu likes to save people, so this lore dump should be interesting for him. And Yasu says, yeah, but Yuri should never have signed a contract like that. Um, for just a lump sum. Ever since she got famous, she spends all her money on her boyfriends and then crawls back to the dorms when she runs out. It happened a lot. And now Nobu is looking up and just listening. And Yasu says she'll never save any more. Yeah, she'll never save any money like that. It's a vicious cycle. And he's like, huh? But I thought she's living in the dorms because her fans are stalking her. And, like, Yasu just kind of has this look on his face, sort of to be like, is that what she told you? And now, again, with the stress lines, he's like, oh man, why does she lie when she can't be caught so easily? Is she making a fool of me? And Yasu's like, well, I don't necessarily know why she moved back into the dorms this time. And of course, she's not going to tell you she blew all her money on an ex-boyfriend. And Nobu's just sitting with it and thinking, dot dot dots. And Yasu says, it's not that she's a bad person, but she's even more thoughtless than Hachi. I'm just wondering if you can really handle it. And he's thinking, and he says, how much is the breach of contract penalty? And you can tell that he's like thinking some way to pay it off, right? And he's like, Yasu says her contract is for 20 million, so she'd owe 40 million. And now, you know, Nobu's looking at like, that's a sum. And he's like, what the hell? That's way more than the kind of money we deal in. I don't have anywhere near that. And then, you know, Yasu's like, Gaia made quite an exception with the advance they gave us. Well, Yuri must have been quite an exception too. So be thankful for what we got. And he's like, really? And then, you know, Yasu's like, a lot of new artists actually pay to have their CD released. So why would Gaia go out of their way to give a band signing money? If you think going major label will make you rich, think again. And Nobu's like, yeah, but... And then, you know, Yasu's like, but we didn't want to be taken to the cleaners by our label, especially when they're trashing Nana's reputation for publicity. So I made a big stink to the Fox, who I thought had a hand in all this, and told him we'd take our CD to someone else. It was all a bluff. Because you're so good, Yasu. You're so freaking good, man. I mean, like, not just good as a person, but also, like, he's also a lawyer. You know? So, like, he's got to have a little bit of cunning in him, you know? Just a little bit. Got that dog in him. Sorry. Anyway, now, you know, Nobu looks very shocked, like, what? You did what? And Yasu's like, then they panicked. As I expected, I milked the situation to get us a contract with several advantages. Why should the record label be the only one to make money? And now Nobu's got this look like, bro. And he's like, well, aren't you crafty? I can't believe all your risky biz and secret maneuverings. You really are a bad boy behind the scenes. No, I mean, sure, Nobu, if you wanna consider, you know, looking out for your best interest as being a bad boy, sure. He's like, Yasu's like, it isn't so risky. I only gamble when I know I'm going to win, and gambling should always be done in secret. And now, you know, Nobu's got like the little like blush dots on his face, and he's like, and he's like, Yasu, you're so, well, it's cool for now. And Yasu's like, I'm so what? And Nobu's like, is there anything I can do about Sakai? And Yasu thinks, and he's like, I haven't seen the contract, so I can't really comment, but I'm not sure there's anything you can do. And Nobu's like, don't be so honest. Can't you think of something? You're an unlicensed lawyer. And he's like, why don't you think of something? He's just being a little stern here with Nobu. Nobu just kind of like stops, and he's like, most people would say that Yuri deserves to be stuck in the mud, and you're someone who's participated in her impulsive behavior. Just because you're in love with her doesn't mean you can relieve her of the consequences of her actions, and it's arrogant for you to think so. And he's taking it in, and he says, I understand that you want to help her, but don't act so righteous, like Sakai is evil, and it's all their fault. And Nobu's like, but what can I do about a huge wad like 40 million? Why is it always about money? And Yasu's like, I don't think having the money would be enough to solve this. Even if she quits, the videos she's already in will never go away. If she's with a guy who can't tolerate that, he'll drive her into a corner. And he just like very firmly puts his cigarette out. And Nobu's just like in shock. Just try to think about it, Nobu. Why Hachi ended up choosing Takumi. And like, I know that this seems like really harsh on like Yasu's part, but like, he's just trying to be straight with him. You know, like, he's Daddy Yasu for a reason. So Nobu has taken this all in. Like, this is one of the good things about Nobu, is that Nobu is willing to listen. Like, I think Nobu is willing to take the criticism, even if he doesn't know what to do. I think he's really good at just listening to Daddy, for lack of a better word. Even if, you know, he'll figure it out. But anyway, in room 2202, Yuri is waiting, and because Nobu hasn't shown up, and then her phone rings. You know, and she's all depressed, so her phone rings, and you know, she probably thinks at first that it's Nobu because she looks at it, but it's from Sugimura, who is the greasy pimp guy, and she just looks really stressed and is starting to cry. And she lifts her phone up, and then she throws it, and it goes smash against a wall. And then she throws down, you know, and she's crying on her bed now, you know. I feel really bad for Yuri. So now I think Jin is over here in the room spilling tea. He's like, Yuri ran away from home. Sugimura picked her up off the streets 5 years ago. She was wandering around Shinjuku like a stray cat. And Nana's like, really? So Sugimura's nicer than he looks, heart. Picking a sweet little girl up off the streets like that. God, no, Nana, that's mean. And Jin's kind of got his hands up like, oh my god. And he's like, yeah, right. He knew he could sell her for lots of money. And Nana's like, yeah, he's doing exactly what he looks like he'd do. And Shin's just sitting over there, just drinking the shochu, and is just like, What's the name of this thing? It's called Demon Coral? Demon Coral? It's kind of hard to read last one, but it yeah. Anyway, so Jin's like, but Shikai fronts as an agency, so the press said let's have her debut as a celebrity because she's good looking. And Nana's just like, fronts? So what do you really do? And he's like, but it's like he's not listening. Jin's just like, but celebrities weren't so popular at the time. And she didn't sell that well. The president was out of touch. The innocent type of celebrity doesn't sell. So then we had her do sexed up photos in magazines, and that worked. She tried really hard to make people like her, and before you knew it, all her clothes were off. And Nana's like, well, so what? She's got guts. And Jin's like, then the president said he wanted to make Yuri a star of those old Roman porn films, quotation marks. How archaic. And then here's Shin with like all the sparkles and charm, is like, oh, like the films Nikki Sato used to make. I can see the guy going for something like that. And Nana's like, Shin, what do you know about all that kind of stuff? Especially old man stuff? And Shin just kind of sitting over there with the dot dots, with a face that is kind of like, I mean, I'm a prostitute for hire. Like, what do you mean? And then Jin is like, but these days, theater porn doesn't make much. So they put her in lots of videos. And that's how she got famous. But actually, Yuri really can act. So in retrospect, she probably could have done well as a regular actress too. And Nana's like, it's never too late to start. She's still young, beautiful, and popular. And Shin's like, no way. No one wants to see Yuri Kosaka with her clothes on. Her popularity works against her there. Yuri has to stick with porn. And Jin's like, you're right. Not that I care about naked women, but some people say you can't just make a new start. But it's not easy because your past is part of who you are. It'll always come back to haunt you. And there's just this, like, they're just listening. And he's like, I would never consider knocking down what's been built in order to start over. If you stand your ground and keep building, will it turn into your ideal structure someday? And just kind of reminiscing. And the kids are just kind of here thinking about it. I also appreciate in this scene that they're not slut-shaming Yuri. You know, they're just being very real about her situation. Go Yazawa. Anyway, there's a flick of a lighter on a scene change here, and it's Ren. He's lighting a cigarette. And Rira has dozed off because I get the feeling it took them a while to get to the sea. And he's just watching her sleep, and he's like, Rira, we're here. And she wakes up and she's like, huh? And there's a click as Ren opens the door of the car, and then there's a slam, and she looks to see, and she looks at the time on her watch, and then she looks outside, and this is the place where they lived, you know, before. Is it's snowing really, really heavy outside, and Ren's just outside looking at the ocean. And she walks outside, and it's snowing really hard, so she's cold, and there's a whir and a splash of the sound of the water, and she looks up and around, and she looks really happy, and Ren's climbed up on the wall, and he offers her down a hand to help her up. And they're both kind of looking out of the water, and she just looks really happy to see, you know, the ocean in the place where they lived, and it's snowing. And Ren says, I knew it was time for the first snowfall out here. And, you know, Rira's just smiling. And he says, when I die, scatter my ashes in the sea here. And she's like, oh, what a good idea, Heart. Do the same for me, too. And he said, so the first one to die gets their wish? Let's ask someone who'll live longer. Like Naoki. Which, you know, that's fair. And she's like, then we should ask Takumi. Even if someone kills him, he won't die. And Ren's like, he doesn't care enough to do something like that. He'd complain that it'd be putting him out. Which you know, I mean, guys, he would still do it. I mean, he might complain, but he'd totally do it. But Rhea was like, you're totally right. I don't want him to complain about me even after I'm dead. And Ren's like, speaking of Takumi, that reminds me, what about band stuff? We've got work tomorrow afternoon. Should we just fly back in the morning? I'm beat. And she's like, but your car. And he says, I'll hire someone to take it back. It really needs new tires. So it'd be dangerous to drive right now. Guys, put a pin in that. Put a pin in the tires. Please put a pin in the tires. And she's like, then I'll stay with you. Heart. He says, if you're a bad girl, your mommy will cry. So stay with your mommy. And she's like, you got a wife. So what would you want with me? Guys are so sleazy. And he says, we aren't married yet. Well, you almost are. Well, she says, well, you almost are. Everything but... And he says, are we? I don't really get the meaning of marriage. What's it for? and there's a splash in the water. Now, like, okay, Ren saying that is actually a very typical feeling that a lot of people in his age bracket at the time, like, felt. Again, this is the early aughts. So, like, this was actually a big feeling, but, you know, like, Rira's got this look on his face like, is he being for serious? And she's like, well, then why did you propose to her? And he says, and he's not looking at her while he's saying this, by the way, and he says, I guess I felt like I had to. She says, why's that? To drive the mosquitoes away? And he said, to get rid of Baldy. To drive Yasu out of Nana's heart. And there's just like this pause and the crash of the waves in the background. And I think Rira realizes that he's getting like real serious on her. And she's just kind of like, oh. And he's like, I'm like a little boy. What good would a contract on a piece of paper do? It makes me feel even emptier when I try to keep her with something like that. She doesn't say anything, just lets him talk. And he says, I probably want Nana to stop singing too. And want her to always be by my side and only think about me. Lately, I just feel like killing her. So then Nana would be mine and only mine forever. It's like the dark thoughts, you know. It says, there's something really wrong with me. Someone please kill me. It's just, he's so depressed, guys. He's just unbelievably depressed. The thoughts he hasn't said out loud, you know, and he's telling Rira because they're friends. Sorry, I have to drive that home, because, you know, she takes her scarf and she just kind of wraps it around him and then she holds him because they're friends and what he said was super, super tough. And like, again, something I don't think he said out loud to anyone else. And he trusts Rira enough to say these things to her. And then there's a narration. It says, hey, Nana, your last words still go back and forth between hope and despair. You whispered softly like you were talking to yourself. I want to go to the sea. And that's the end of the chapter, guys. So yeah, it's really, really difficult to have any lasting commentary, especially when there's no comments, to kind of sift through, and at this point, no other person to talk to about this kind of thing. It really is a bleak sort of feeling at the end of this here, as this particular story becomes darker from here on out. So I guess the most I can do is just make small commentary through until something changes. But yeah, guys, hard stuff. Anyway, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And, you know, like, comment, subscribe to the channel here. And I will do my best to try to continue this project as much as I can. Thank you all so much. And I will hopefully see you all in the next one. Good night.